Welcome to the Paper Fold. I am your host, Sarah. Before I get to my guest today, I just wanted to remind you all that the Noted at Noted Product Awards are open through April 18th, and you don't have to be an exhibitor to enter. For more info, head on over to thepapernerd.com. I have a dedicated post on it, as well as a button running along the right side that you can click to get started. So, you probably would never guess from looking at her, but my guest today is a really powerful force of stationary nature. Lindsay Henry is the founder and creative director at Inklings Paperie, a stationery and lifestyle studio based in Plymouth, Michigan. Lindsay worked as a brand designer for 5 years before launching Inklings in 2009 on Etsy. I first met Lindsay rather early on, and what really stood out to me from day one is that Lindsay is really intentional and thoughtful in her approach to every aspect of her business. As you'll hear Lindsay explain, Inklings embraces sustainability, ingenuity, and the power of connection through the handwritten note. The range is full of artful surprises from pop-ups to scratch-offs, which may explain why Inklings has received 8 Louis Awards as well as 2 Best New Product Awards from New York Now and Noted. Inklings Paperie was a finalist in the Martha Stewart American Made Awards, and in 2017, Lindsay was one of Stationery Trends magazine's 10 designers to watch. Today, you can find Inklings in over 1,500 stores across the U.S. and around the world, with that number including Anthropologie, Saks Fifth Avenue, Nordstrom, Starbucks, Target, Uncommon Goods, plus a whole lot of the independent stores that really power our industry. Inklings Paperie is operated by a small but mighty team of 6 women from a century-old factory where adding machines, typewriters, World War II army tanks, and bombs were once fabricated. Sounds like a powerful location for this mighty range to be designed, packed, and shipped. Lindsay is really active in the stationery community, from Proof to Product to the Greeting Card Association. I see her everywhere, and I am always struck by her warm, giving nature. As you'll see, she goes to bat not just for her brand, as any maker would do, but also for other brands. When that happens, she's as tough as an older sister protecting her younger sibling on the playground. But the way she goes about it is such that you cannot really get mad at her, and you sort of lose interest in fighting altogether. Too bad she's not offering that skill wholesale. I can only imagine how she deftly mothers her 2 young sons. So I have a million questions for Lindsay about her brand and her ethics, and she'll be back with me right after this to discuss. Hey, paper peeps. So by now, many of my listeners are familiar with the force of stationary nature, better known as Girl with Knife. But if you aren't, time to change all that. From the first moment I spied her booth at her New York Now trade show debut in 2019, I was smitten with this cutting edge range that the world was calling out for. We all just didn't know it yet. Everything is nimbly collaged to life, slice by careful slice by the talented and exquisite Alicia Castaldi. This stylish collection of cards, journals, and notepads that have sprung to life under this fashionista's exacting knife is sharp, snarky, sleek, and occasionally very sweet, just like that BFF who would love to hear from you right now. For that reason, whenever I get my hands on Girl with Knife merchandise, I hoard it and use it most sparingly. Alicia recently launched gift wrap, and if you're already a fan of her range, you're familiar with her patterns and quality, but these super thick sheets elevate any gift from off the rack to atelier. Her recent releases of Midnight Botanical, Rare Creatures, and Chasing Dreams bring the total styles that slay up to 10. And if you're like me and that you fall in love with a range and want to reside in that world, you're in luck. Alicia recently unveiled Knife House, which was one of the few good things I can think of that came out of 2020. that was when Alicia shifted her operation from LA to this newly renovated concept home in Palm Springs. This completely private, walled and gated estate features panoramic mountain views and countless luxe surprises. Take a tour through its magnificent blush pink doors at www.knifehousepalmsprings.com or find it on Instagram at Knife House Palm Springs. Good luck getting your jaw off the floor as you take in this perfect California adult playground. These glamorous digs are available for photo shoots, film projects, special events, and short-term rentals. But just as importantly, all that exquisite Palm Springs flora and fauna have inspired Alicia's soon-to-be-released journal and notepads. She tells me that they're also expanding into home decor, which I, for one, absolutely can't wait to see. So now that you've glimpsed this wonderful world, you need this cutting-edge lifestyle brand in your life. Find Girl with Knife in hundreds of shops across the U.S. and over half a dozen countries. Alicia and Girl with Knife have also been featured in New York Magazine, LA Business Journal, Buzzfeed, and of course, Stationery Trends. I've run her work there countless times. Alicia was one of our 10 designers to watch in 2020 and proceeded to live up to that designation when last May, 2 out of her 3 nominated cards took CHAP honors at the Noted and Noted virtual greeting card competition. Then, for our winter 2021 issue of Stationery Trends, Alicia designed the 10 designers to watch frontispiece for us. It is something else if you haven't seen it yet. Also, as of 2021, Alicia is represented by none other than the Daniel Richards showrooms in Atlanta and Dallas. Dan's eye is renowned in this biz, so his representing Girl with Knife is unsurprising, but it also means that this brand needs to be on your design radar stat. Check out this beguiling range at the recently refreshed girlwithknife.com. Right now, the theme is Season of Fierce, and I think we can all use one of those about now. I guarantee your stationery will slay. Hey, Lindsay, welcome to the Paper Fold.
Hi, Sarah. It's so good to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
Thank you so much for being here. I'm just going to get right into it. Like so many stationery makers, your business was born at your graphic design day job. And I have found over the years that most paper peeps tend to not just be entrepreneurial, but really appreciate the little moments and connections that make life special. Can you speak to your love of that and how you try to recreate those moments with your products?
Yeah, great question. Like you said, before I started Inklings, Sarah, I did work in graphic design and branding for about 10 years. But when I think back to my childhood, I've always had a love of paper and of the written word. And you probably had this situation as well. Like I had a pen pal, my best friend for years, who would send each other handmade cards and letters stuffed with stickers and friendship bracelets and little treasures in the mail. And I still have a box filled with those letters. They're like a time capsule of childhood memories. And now as a parent, I have kids of my own, and they're growing up in a digital age where text and email can be deleted as quickly as they're written. And as a parent, I've noticed that we tend to post those memories and pictures and stories on Facebook, but the good stuff in life and the deep kind of lasting connections happen off screen. Mm-hmm. And so there's power in these tactile, kind of tangible keepsakes. So really, Inklings is about the power of connection and creating moments of surprise and delight with everything we make. So like our scratch-off cards and our secret decoder cards, with them, you can send a hidden message to someone in the mail when you can't be there in person. And our confetti grams are about sending a party that's just a little moment of joy that you can send in the mail. So we want to create lasting memories and connections that you just can't get across the screen. That's really what lights us up.
I think that's amazing. I love it. In our age of social media, sometimes I feel like people feel like something didn't happen unless they share it in a social media post. And I really feel like it's better if it's not shared in a social media post. Like I feel like those are the precious moments. And after anything, if you don't share it on social media, it's almost more special in your memories,
yes,
I think. And it's the same thing with those moments, getting a letter, opening it up, and, that sense of discovery and the unfolding that, sort of occurs over time. It's really very, it's a special thing, and it's a special thing to recreate. And it's so neat that you're framing the most personal moments of people's lives through your product. So
Yes.
it's really special.
It is special.
Hey, Paper Peeps. So Kitty Meow Boutique has been a fabulous client of mine for a while now. So hopefully many of my listeners are familiar with not just the dazzling wares from this Chicagoland house of paper, but also its amazing founder, a force of nature better known as Catherine Hildner. This mom of two, with another scheduled to arrive soon, has created a most intoxicating stationery range. I define the Kitty Meow aesthetic as polished and very smart. Think of the sharpest outfit you own that you feel like $1,000,000 in, but in stationery form. Everything from typography to envelope choice comes together to pack a most enticing punch. But this range is not just about the surface. It's about honoring those connections with those we care about most. And you'll see once you visit kittymeowboutique.com that the wares are divided into witty and sweet because, as Catherine puts it, sometimes you feel a little saucy and sometimes you don't. But Kitty Meow Boutique is so much more than just another pretty face in the marketplace. The empowering messaging found on her cards, invitations, journals, coasters, art prints, and enamel pins elevates the range into something that makes you feel not just seen, but good about yourself too. Everything is essentially a little lift, visually and emotionally, for not just those you love, but you as well. Not only is Kitty Meow available for your personal shopping needs, it's also available wholesale to all those shops looking for something new with which to excite their customers. She's on Fair. Visit kittymeowboutique.fair.com and get your shop started. Finally, I think what I love about Catherine most is that she is really all about living your best life, as you'll see for yourself beneath the education tab on her site. She offers KMB Signature Collective, a mastermind for women in the product-based business world who have a love for paper and giftable items, who have an idea and a plan, but need guidance and support to be successful in their efforts. I so agree with Catherine. It's so important to be surrounded by like-minded women and leaders who are willing to put in the work to lift each other up. For that reason, it's not a course. It's a friggin' transformation, people. And Catherine has also started my second favorite podcast, Dreams to Plans, with another brilliant force of nature, my girlfriend Renee, to elevate your daydreams to actual, tangible plans. Oh, and if you're on Clubhouse, follow Kitty Meow so you can tune in to her weekly room Wednesdays at 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. It's called Small Business Savvy, Insider Secrets You Need to Know. I checked it out for myself last week, and it was just the dose of inspiration and confidence my day needed. So get those good vibes going at kittymeowboutique.com and tell them Sarah sent you. So you opened your Etsy shop in 2010, and you began to kind of set your brand apart from the start. By 2012, you were a finalist in the Martha Stewart American Made Awards. So I go on Etsy, and there's a trillion billion people. What advice would you give other Etsy shops for distinguishing themselves on that massive platform?
Yes, it's a huge platform. And when we joined, it was much smaller. I do miss certain aspects of that, but I think it's just in general, it can be challenging to sell a physical, tangible product in a digital space. People, we naturally love to touch and feel things and hold them and, feel the paper and the weight of that item in our hands. And so when we can't do that, photography and product descriptions really have to do a lot of the heavy lifting.
Mm-hmm.
I cringe when I look at our early product photos now, because I was learning as I went, and so many of them I just took them on top of a desk with, some light coming in the window. But we've always taken our own photography and definitely have gotten better over the years at that. But I find like beautiful photos really highlight your product. It helps you show certain aspects and details of them that kind of helps when you can't show them that product in person, and brings them to life. So I would say the photography quality really is important in distinguishing yourself online. But also, oh, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no. That's huge. I mean, that's huge. Yeah. That's all the customer is seeing. And I say that with submissions to the publication as well. But like on Etsy, like that's really when you have to pull out the big stops and really, make your product pop.
Right. And even the written descriptions too. I know you're a lover of words. So how do you tell a story with your product description and cast a vision for how that can be used? That's also a helpful, way to distinguish your products on the platform.
I mean, it's huge.
Yeah. I think also you mentioned it's such a massive, Etsy especially is just such a massive platform. And there are so many people who are following trends and trying to, do what other people are doing. I think bringing a unique point of view is really important. Don't try and be like everyone else. Just, own what you're doing and try and bring a unique offering. And that's something that we've tried to do from the start.
Absolutely. Don't try to be anyone else. Do your own thing.
Right. Please. Also, even if you're small, think big when it comes to your brand. I'm putting my branding hat on because I have that background, but like laying the foundation for a lasting standout brand early on is really important. So, many people, I think Bill Gates said that many people underestimate what they can accomplish in 1 year. Overestimate, what they can accomplish in 1 year, and underestimate what they can in 10 years. So understanding kind of your brand promise, your offering, and crafting products around that is important, rather than just coming up with one idea and throwing it out there. When people buy an Inklings card, they expect one that delivers that moment of surprise and delight. And they also know that we value sustainability, and we're woman owned, and we want to deliver more sweet than snark. So those are the things that are important to our brand, and, but laying that foundation early on is important.
Absolutely. Because then each product sort of stands on the shoulders of another and just sort of deepens your brand statement, adds more dimension. Oh, she's doing the pop-ups. Oh, she's doing confetti. Oh, she got flowers. Yes. Like it's like, what's next?
Yes.
So, I mean, it's great. It's brilliant. And I mean, and now that you have been doing it now for over a decade, you sort of can see how it played out. I mean, now it must seem linear, but at the time it was happening, I'm sure it was more like, what do I try next?
Right. Yes. A lot more reactive.
So since then, I mean, over the past 11 or so years, as your wholesale business has grown, I mean, you've collaborated with major retail heavy hitters, Starbucks and Anthropologie, which are two corporations I cannot seem to quit.
Same here.
I would love to hear more about like how these partnerships played out. Like, how did they come to you? Did you go to them? Like, what happened?
Yeah, each one was kind of a unique situation. And honestly, Sarah, I still pinch myself some days when I think of the privilege to be able to work with these companies that I've admired for my whole life. Anthro, actually, they reached out to us early on, and they were one of our first wholesale accounts, which was really exciting. We pretty much did a happy dance when I got that email. They had seen our cards online and were interested in them specifically for their bridal line, Beholden. So our first card design that we ever made, it was a scratch-off balloon, was one that they ordered, and it's still a top seller in our line. So they just happened to find us on the internet, so it was kind of a lucky thing. And this spring, they'll be adding our confetti grams and flowergrams to their line, to their card wall as well. So that that was kind of a unique situation. Starbucks, though, we happened to be at New York Now in the winter of 2017. We were exhibiting for the first time at that show, and our little booth we shared it with a friend. It was so far at the back of Javits that we could feel the cold air drafting in from the loading docks. And I remember every morning it took buyers about an hour to like snake their way through Javits to make their way all the way back to us. So, we always have a product demo where we show our customers. There's a lot of kind of demonstration to what we do. And so we always have a little demo in our booth. And we happen to have a little cluster of buyers walk by. And
I'm sorry to interrupt you, but your booth was always amazing. Like your booth was amazingly styled. There was always treats. Yeah, I could not leave without getting something to eat. And but just everything was lovely. Everything was so beautifully styled always from the start. I'm trying to remember your booth that year, but it's not coming to me, which is weird because usually I remember all this stuff. But I'm sure even from the start, you were exquisitely.
Thank you.
But I'm sorry to interrupt, but you were saying, so they found you at your demonstration.
Yes. So they just walked by, and we didn't look at the badges. We just engaged in conversation and invited them to play this little scratch off game that we had. And then, as we're talking, I looked at the name tags and realized that they were from Starbucks. So that was like, what? And so we chatted for about 10 or 15 minutes and kind of kicked around some ideas and showed them our line. And after that, I just kept in touch for like 6 months. I would send them samples and communicate with them. And eventually I didn't let up, and they're like, okay, we'll give you 1 hour. If you'd like to come to our headquarters in Seattle, show us some of your ideas. So like when Starbucks invites you to present to them, you make it count. So we had like 2 weeks to throw together all of our ideas, throw together this, some displays and products. And we packed them all. My husband and I packed them all into like 2 rolling suitcases. And on our anniversary, we walked into the Starbucks headquarters and sat down in this little glass conference room and just like put it all out there, and it was like it kind of felt like a pivotal moment for us in our lives and in our career. And if it tanked, we're like, well, at least it was a little anniversary trip,
Right.
Wait,
had they said, because your product was like a scratch off type gift card was what eventually was arisen at. Was that what you were pitching them, or was what you pitched them? Did that evolve?
It evolved. We pitched a whole bunch of different ideas because we really weren't sure exactly what they were looking for and what their strategy was. Right. So we had a whole range of holiday cards, of gift card ideas, of mini notes, of little lunchbox notes, but we customized all of them to what we thought would be an aesthetic that would work with them without losing our own brand aesthetic in along the way. So we made samples, we had a little booklet and made a little video. So we just threw a lot of things out there in the time that we had. And eventually, it was another year's worth of communicating with them and culling it down to be the 2 products that we ended up launching in their store. So, and that was kind of a merger of our ideas and some of the ideas of their design team too.
Wow. Well, that's amazing. I love how you didn't look at their badge, because to me, like trade shows, like there's something very organic about just people coming by your booth and you chatting with them. And it doesn't matter where anybody works. It's just like, there's just a sense of connection over the products. And it just happened to be someone from Starbucks. And because you sort of, just develop that relationship and let it play out, like it eventually grew into something. I mean, a lot of people might have had that trade show interaction and never got it to the point you got it to. So I think what you did with that was crucial.
Well, thank you. And I think the trade show and getting in front of people is just the first step, but really it's about trying to form a relationship and trying to remain in touch with people in a non-annoying way, right? Because you don't want to seem too pushy, but just providing an offering that you think they would enjoy and just kind of following up on that connection, and sometimes it just means putting yourself out there.
Right. You've always been very, very good at that, though, from the start, as long as I've known you.
Thanks, Sarah.
So that sort of brings, you're welcome. So that sort of brings me to my next question. So while I haven't really physically seen you in a really long time, I see you, quote unquote, online in some private stationery groups where makers share little aggravations and as well as victories. And about a month back, one member posted that an Etsy shop had copied one of her designs, asking others to go and make sure that nothing from you had been copied as well. And so not only did you like almost immediately go and check, you wrote a very polished and professional letter with screenshots telling this individual in no uncertain terms to take them down immediately. And he did. And so that was so heartwarming for me to just kind of see how in our little community, makers sort of have each other's backs. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to get to how nice you are in a minute throughout these rather awkward interactions. But I want to ask you first, since you seemed like raring to go on this, have you been ripped off before on Etsy, and was it easy to get resolved?
Yeah. Unfortunately, that has happened to us before. And just circling back to our community, though, this is such a special community. Everyone is so supportive, even of people who in other communities that might be their competitor, but everyone is just willing to step up, and especially defending a colleague when her work has been copied. So unfortunately, this has happened to us on a number of occasions. And I think one of the hardest parts about working as a visual artist is knowing what to do when you found your work has been taken without your permission. And sometimes it may happen in innocence, as someone like is inspired by an idea and just thinks, well, I'll just open a little Etsy shop and make something kind of like that. But that line can get blurred sometimes. And I've learned that, especially if it's just an individual and not a company, just reaching out to them directly is a good first step. I try and be polite but firm, and sometimes that's all it takes to remove the product in question. When it comes to bigger infringements or issues with larger retailers, that's a different story. And we've had to learn along the way about what's the appropriate way to defend yourself. And when it comes to finding a product on the shelves that is identical to yours. I think like 5 years ago, I got a text from a friend and she said, "Oh, I'm so excited. I just saw your cards in Target." And I'm like,
what?
We're not in Target. That's exciting, but I didn't know about this. And I went and like in the dollar spot, like at the very front, and there with my kid, and he's like, "Mom, is that yours?" There was like 2 or 3 things that looked almost identical to something that we were making at the time. And it was so hard.
Your stomach drops. It's your baby. Like people don't understand with creatives that like, this is your baby. Right. This is your product that you slaved over. And then to see it in the dollar section at Target, oh my goodness. It's like, it's just your stomach drops.
Yes. So defending yourself, I would say some advice for creatives is that registering copyrights of your work is really important, and something that we didn't do in the beginning days and would have given us more to stand on in a situation like that when we saw it in Target. So that's, if it's just an individual, it's, you can maybe just reach out. But if you're talking about bigger issues, I would just recommend registering copyrights of your work, and especially before the product has launched and is public, because you can register it as a group. So it's as a collection, and it's a bit more affordable to do it that way.
That's really smart. And I should add, there is gray area. I mean, while there are like blatant copies, like sometimes, one menorah looks like another menorah card. Like there, it's, there is a lot of overlap. And a few times in the past, people have come to me and been like, so-and-so ripped me off. And, I want you to take a look and get involved. Usually I don't want to get involved. No. I mean, I want to help them, but I do not need to put myself in the middle of that situation at all. Right. So, another thing that has kind of been occurring a lot in the past several months is with the post office issues. There have been a lot of delays with customers receiving packages, especially over the holidays. I know everybody got lots of where is my order emails. And you recently shared one where a customer placed an order for a Valentine's Day card. It was early February. Or it might have been late January.
Yes.
And then they wanted you to upgrade shipping to expedite it without paying extra, so it could definitely arrive by Valentine's Day. And then then they threatened to leave you a negative review if you didn't do as she asked. And you didn't. You patiently, far more patient than I ever could have been, explained your policies. And then you kind of shared the interaction in a private group which is where I saw it. And then everybody was chiming in like, I would have just canceled the order, period. And, everyone, basically the sentiment was, that is so aggravating. Just forget it. Cancel the order. Give the lady her $7 back and call it a day. And, but you did it, and nor did you upgrade her shipping. And so how did it end up playing out?
Oh my goodness. I think some people will just never be happy. I know that's hard. It's hard because we're people pleasers. We want to delight every person, but sometimes some people are just, they have their own set of circumstances that are influencing how they're treating people. And, for us, Valentine's Day this year was by far our busiest season. And it was crazy already. We had an unexpected feature on Buzzfeed that brought 88,000 views to our little Etsy shop, which we still keep our Etsy shop open just because we tend to meet people that way as well. But in 1 week we had 2,000 orders of a single product. It was crazy. And we're trying to prevent back orders. And this is the backstory to this conversation.
Sure. And and I should have added that in addition to your Etsy shop, you are not just an Etsy seller, you have a dedicated
we have a few
website.
Different, yes, we do.
Okay.
Yeah, that's definitely where we put most of our efforts. But in Valentine's Day, Etsy just explodes. So here we were in our little studio trying to prevent back orders. So we lengthened our processing time to manage expectations. So we said, we can ship your order out within 3 to 5 days. And we offered to customers a few shipping speed upgrades so they could ensure arrival by February 14th. This customer was just not happy with that. She sent, as you mentioned, a really rude and forceful message that was almost like bullying, really. She just said, I will leave an offer review if this does not get to me by the date.
It's blackmail. That's
it was
blackmail.
It was title bully vibe. So I needed to step back and take a breath before replying. And, in doing so, I explained to her why we had the processing times in place and how every order is important. And right now, every order is needed by February 14th. In fact, around that time, we were getting 30 or 40 emails a day from frantic parents whose schools had just sent them an email saying, well, actually, we need your Valentine's a week sooner so that they can quarantine, the paper goods can quarantine in the classroom before being passed out. So all of these parents who had ordered with ample time were now being told, we need this a week sooner. And they, kids take time. I'm a mom of 2 kids. We would work on 10 a night. You got to spread that out. So everyone's orders were of utmost importance. And we were trying also to prevent kids from having yet another disappointment this year, right? It's just been a hard year. So we adjusted the processing time and explained to her a little bit of the backstory, because I think we all, myself included, expect businesses to fulfill at Amazon speeds, and so, but we're a small business. Sometimes we just can't do that. So eventually she thanked us. She said, well, at least you tried to explain, but I'm really hoping it does arrive. And here's the thing, it arrived on the 5th of February, Sarah. So
that. You kind of got a begrudging compliment out of her. So that's that's a victory. Right? And
you can't win them all.
right. And with it doesn't happen a lot, but with the publication, occasionally I get someone who is just bent out of shape with something, and it is a point of pride with me that I will patiently wait it out, listen and talk to them and hold their hand through it. And if by the end of it, it would be great if they're my best friends, but if they just like me, and I feel I feel like that's a real victory. And
and everyone has their own story and their own reason why they're acting that way. So
sure,
we do our best, and we've got 12,000 reviews on Etsy, and I still read each one. And when people leave a not so happy review, it still bugs me a little, but every now and then, I think just you have to do your best. And at the end of the day, that's all you can be.
Right. I know we all listen to our worst critics. So, and I think personally getting to a point in life where I was just look, people can say I'm great. People can say I'm, horrible, but in the end, I'm still the same person, and I just have to just keep rolling with it.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So this kind of brings up, you look out for other makers. You're unfailingly kind and professional and patient in difficult customer interactions. And to me, that not only speaks to the kind of person you are, but you've said it's also, how you want to define your brand in customers' eyes and the community's eyes as well. I feel like I just get to see the polished end result. So I am like curious, when you think about your brand, which we've already determined is your baby, how do you want to define it?
Well, firstly, as to being unfailingly kind, you haven't quarantined with me for 12 months. So ask my kids that. But no, but joking aside, I feel like the beauty of having your own business is you can build it around your own personal value set. And like you said, whether you like it or not, it becomes an extension of you. So, for me, I want Inklings to be known as a brand that cares. I want people to know through our products that they matter. And then just how I run our company, I want, as a leader, as a mom, as a boss, I want to be known and remembered as someone who cares. So I think my hope that comes across in our brand and our brand voice. But it kind of goes to like a bit of a backstory, and I've shared some of my story elsewhere, but I was deeply influenced by my parents, as most of us are, good or bad. They met in art college and pursued and really encouraged me to pursue a creative career. My dad had a small design studio in Toronto, and I was really excited to follow his footsteps. And I went to art school, and in my mid-20s, after having graduated, my dad passed away suddenly of a heart attack. And
I'm so sorry.
Oh, thanks, Sarah. But I feel like there are defining moments in our lives when we're forced to really examine who we are and what we want to become. And I think back to my dad and his character and how he ran his business. And it wasn't his talent that I remember. It was how he treated people. Right. How he made you feel, how he lived out his faith through his work. And I want to be known as a business that did things with integrity and that put kindness and love out in the world. So, and a year like this one, bringing joy to people during difficult times, so,
right.
Yeah.
Right. Well, that's so thoughtful and it's so beautiful. And I know you're too young to be having a midlife crisis to be having these revelations. So, I think it's beautiful. And as an observer, I think it definitely comes through in your work. And, you definitely have a reputation as, most people in our industry do not even last. I think if they don't have a certain element of integrity, but yours is definitely right up there.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. It's absolutely true. I wouldn't say it if it wasn't true. So I feel like since I have you here, I would sort of be a little remiss not to bring up the paper source situation, because it is sort of like the 10 million pound stationery elephant in every room these days.
That's a good way to describe it.
So I know you have a few unpaid invoices. I don't know the amounts. I know they're obviously existing. Yeah. There's a lot of different approaches to the situation that I've seen different makers taking, all of them valid, all of them, natural. How are you choosing to approach this, and where's your head and mindset with this?
Yeah, this is a really tough situation, and this was tough news for our industry, and I'm sure for Paper Source as well. There are 1,700 people who are affected inside of Paper Source, as well as all the makers that support them and that they support. So this was hard news and emotional news for our industry. Speaking for myself, I don't want to see them fail. I feel like bankruptcy is this has been an impossible year, and there was a certain set of circumstances that led them to this point, and no one wants to declare bankruptcy. So I think I would like to see them succeed. I would like to see them do well for the people who have been, the small makers who have invoices that are open with them. So I don't want to see them fail, but I do hope that they, do right. Do their due diligence to make it right.
Right.
So
I feel the same way. I mean, I feel like, I work with a lot of people there. I know you do. These are just regular kind paper peeps with jobs. They did not make any of these decisions. And frankly, I think they were a little overwhelmed by the response. I don't think that was the response they were expecting. So hopefully they'll make good and it will play out. I mean, the industry does need them. We need them. if we lost them, I don't think the results would be good. So hopefully they'll make it work and everybody will be happy.
Yeah.
It was last week was definitely a week I don't want to live through again.
Right. It's like how 2020 or how 2021. I do want to say, Sarah, though, like, I want to make sure that we're framing the conversation around cards in a positive light, because even though they had to make this decision from a business standpoint, I don't think that's a reflection of our industry's health as a whole. In fact, cards are more relevant than ever. It just wasn't a series of unfortunate events that led up to them, and the timing of their, buying papyrus stores, and then a global pandemic hit and all sorts of other things. So, but I mean, we've sold more cards this year than ever before, and so cards, I feel like people are still trying to stay connected, and they want those cards to be able to show love to one another from afar. So I hope people can understand that in general, cards are as important as ever, and that shouldn't be a reflection of that.
Okay. Thank you so much for underlining that. That is so much so people were having amazing years, makers big, makers small. From my understanding, and I am no specialist in bankruptcy law, from my understanding, they might have gotten a little, the timing of buying the papyrus shops, they overextended themselves a bit. It's not like, their greeting card wall is not a major draw, and it is not like people are not buying them hand over fist. And to me, the really interesting thing about this situation is that because I was trying to think of another corporation that has a feature to it, or I'm sorry, a mass retailer that has a feature to it that is so maker driven. I can't think of a single store that has anything like that. And so maybe that's why this is playing out a little differently. But it is something special, and we need to keep it in that sort of larger than life format. Although there are so many great little independents that do it in their own way that are just as interesting, if not more interesting in their own ways.
Oh yeah, I know. Sorry to jump in, but I agree. I can't say enough about our independent stores, and those are the stores who they pay for orders up front. They personally select each one. We know many of those owners by name and know their kids' names. So while we love paper stores, we want to see them to succeed, but I also feel all the more grateful for the independent stores that we work with across the country, and they've been so embracing of our community and the makers who are affected, and so encouraging in all of this too, supporting us in so many ways. So I just want to put a shout out to them too.
Oh yeah, no, they're amazing. And it has been amazing to see how everybody sort of stood together and looks out for each other and, supports each other. I don't know if it was in another market that I cover that it would have been quite the same. Like, it's harder for me to see this playing out in the gift industry, for example. Not that the gift industry isn't great and doesn't have a lot of great things, but I just think this was the way it played out was very, it reflected the amazing nature of our industry.
I agree.
So, and circling a little bit back to trade shows, I mean, and that was part of the value of them, is that you see your independent retailers. And I mean, I know their kids, and when they're getting married, and when they're moving, and when they're expanding their store, and, you really know their businesses in a very, intimate way, as well as how they're developing them and getting through. So finally, this is new release season, or it used to be anyway.
It still is.
It is. I'm sorry. I don't want to be too dark. What I love about your range, as I'd mentioned, is that you just take such a fun approach to stationery, integrating elements like custom scratch offs, like making snowballs, like crazy stuff, to add that extra engagement. So what's new this season?
Oh goodness, we have some fun new things coming this season that again are just all about delivering little moments of joy in that Card Plus experience. So we're really excited. We just launched our facial cards, not face mask cards, but like a sheet kind of facial that you can pamper yourself or pamper someone with. And so you mail the card. It's got a little spa facial inside. So it's like a gift and a card all in one. So it's been a fun line to launch this season. And then also we've newly launched our vinyl sticker cards. So They've got a vinyl sticker plus the card. So it's like a little gift with a card that you can send to someone in the mail. We know that vinyl stickers are insanely popular right now. And so we were excited to be able to embrace that new medium and introduce them in a new way by putting them on a card. So we've got a few other top secret things in the works that we'll be sharing as the year progresses. But those are two big products that we're excited about launching this spring.
Those look amazing. I see them on your site. I can't wait to see them in person. And I bet they're even more amazing. As nice as your photography is, I'm sure in life they've got that extra razzle dazzle.
I love that.
So, Lindsay, thank you so much for coming by the Paper Fold.
It was a privilege, Sarah. Thank you. You are as lovely in person as you are across the screen here. I can't wait to see you in person again. But I'm thankful for you and what you bring to our industry, and the warmth that you bring and the insights that you offer. You're amazing. I'm grateful to call you friend. So thank you.
Oh my gosh. Thank you so much. I'm so grateful that you came here, and I'm so grateful to call you a friend and even just to get to see you. Hopefully this will hopefully I will see you in real life this year. That's my goal.
Same here.
All right. Thanks again.
You, Sarah.
Thank you so much, Lindsay, for coming by the Paper Fold. And thank you so much for listening. As always, please email me at sarah@thepapernerd.com with anything I can do for you. And if you are liking what you are hearing, please subscribe and leave me a good rating and review. I can't tell you how much that helps. Thanks so much, Paper Peeps. Please stay well.